This story is really something special. Now, I will say, maybe I'm a softie, maybe I'm too kind-hearted, but Meghan McCain's book flopped so hard, I almost feel bad for her. Almost. I'm stressing the word almost because I don't feel bad for her. But let me go ahead and show you the tweet. This is from somebody who, by the way, was at NBC. He says, Meghan McCain's new book, Bad Republican, a memoir, flops big time. Only 244 copies have sold since it was released on April 26th. Let that sink in. 244 copies. 244 copies. It's almost been 2 weeks. Guys, let me explain to you the way this works. The way this works is when you first drop the book, that's when you get most of your sales. It's like with anything. If you watch a YouTube video from this channel or whatever other favorite channels you might have, you got to look in the first 48-hour period is where you're going to get like 90% of your views. First 48 hours, especially in news and politics. We're almost uniquely like that in this realm. But that's when you're going to get most views. So if I drop a video, it gets 40,000 views in the first 48 hours. You know, you could wait another 48, or you could wait another week and go back, and maybe it ticks up to 45. But everything you hit it up front. That's what happens. Book sales are exactly like that as well. You build up the hype, you do the interviews, you get the word out there, you do everything you can, and then when it drops, boom, that's when it's supposed to, you get your most sales. 244 copies in a 2-week period. That is beyond embarrassing. It's beyond embarrassing. Now, this is somebody who was shoved down the throats of the American public simply because her dad is John McCain. That's what it is. And by the way, I'm thinking of Tim Dillon's impression of Meghan McCain now, and it is hilarious. You definitely have to go check that out. Type in Tim Dillon, Meghan McCain into YouTube. So everybody knows what she is, right? At her core, she's an entitled, spoiled little brat who, through her father's name and nepotism, was able to get onto a bunch of forums where she had no business being. On The View, she was the host that people love to hate, but apparently behind the scenes, she's impossible to work with. Steve Schmidt, who's a Republican operative, who now he's part of the Lincoln Project, so he's like scammer and a fraud in his own respect. But he tells stories about how she's worse than anybody could imagine. She would be a brat. She would argue with people. She would yell at people. She was expected to be served. He had to throw her off of a plane at least once during John McCain's campaign for president. Nobody likes her. All that stuff. And so she was gifted this position. Gifted this position on TV and in media because of who her dad is. My father's John McCain. My father. And these are the results, man. Look, it goes to show you a number of things. I mean, nepotism is a huge problem, but also when you're an executive at, one of these networks, they don't really know what they're doing. They're just like taking guesses. Like, okay, maybe we should give this person a show, and we think they'll do well. Well, how would you know? What experience do you have in knowing what will work and won't work? There's a rigid hierarchy at the networks. And it is the opposite of a free market and a meritocracy. It's an anti-meritocracy. For favoritism reasons, for political reasons, who are we going to prominently feature? Chris Cuomo with his show on CNN, which, by the way, did better than a lot of other CNN shows, but that's like being the tallest kid in kindergarten. Why was he in that position? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because the Cuomo family is a political dynasty where Mario Cuomo was the governor of New York and Andrew Cuomo was the governor of New York. Maybe that had something to do with it. So it's not organic. It's not like here are the voices that are more popular and the cream rises to the top. It's the opposite. The cream ain't nowhere to be found in mainstream media. With all the different levels of filtration, they keep out any sort of dissenting charismatic voices and they prop up the banal status quo defenders. And therein lies Meghan McCain and why she was in the position that she was in. But it's astroturfed. Nobody actually likes these people. Nobody does. Think about to make it in new media and independent media, you need to develop an actual natural organic following, and then people end up liking you, and there's like a parasocial relationship there, and they're interested in what you have to say about various different topics, and it works like this in all of new media and independent media. It's never like that on TV. It's background noise on TV. If you turn on CNN or something, it's on at airports and bars and barbershops. Nobody's watching it. Nobody cares what Wolf Blitzer has to say about A, B, or C. So this is what happens. It's astroturfed. They're propped up unfairly. And then the bubble bursts when you try to do something that actually needs to appeal on its own merits. It flops miserably. So I almost feel bad for her that her bubble of delusion was popped. Now she comes out there and says, no, but on Audible, the app, it was one of the best selling, and it was out before on Audible, and the only reason we're even selling it, like the hard copy of the book, is for people who really like it for collector's reasons or what. Highly doubt that by any measurable metrics, the book did well. Highly, highly, highly doubt that. Because, and let me end on this note, because this is actually really interesting, and a lot of people don't know this. The way that it works, particularly in conservative politics, what they do when they have, like, let's say back in the day when Bill O'Reilly released a book, or Mark Levin releases a book, or Michael Savage, who is another big right-wing author and radio show host. When one of those guys releases a book, they have a million tricks that they use to get it on bestsellers lists. So one of the things that happens is you have all these right-wing think tanks. So like the Heritage Foundation, for example, or, you know, what I'm blanking on the names of the other ones now. Cato Institute, that's more like libertarian leaning. There's ones that are dedicated for foreign policy. There's ones that are dedicated for more domestic policy and tax cuts for the rich and stuff like that. The conservative think tanks will buy in bulk these books from right-wing commentators and right-wing authors. They buy them in bulk, and then they turn around and hand them out at whatever sort of conventions they might have. And this happened with Ann Coulter. This is a very common practice in the business. They find a way to sell enough books to then get the book on the bestseller list, and then when it gets on the bestseller list, they'll get a few more sales off of the fact that it's on the bestseller list, and somebody might see it and say, oh, maybe I'll pick that up or whatever, and then they do it. But it's astroturfed. It's really top-down stuff. It's not bottom-up stuff. It's not organic following. You put it out there, boom, it explodes through natural popularity. It is jerry-rigged. If you have, and this happened with Rush Limbaugh too, all these people, you have these big conservative institutes and think tanks, buy it in bulk, hand them out for free at conventions, and boom, you get, the numbers are juiced massively. And what happens here with Meghan McCain is she was actually too honest. Maybe she didn't know the tricks of the trade, she didn't know the way it worked, and so she actually tried to put it out there and let it succeed or fail on its own merits. And she didn't understand the way it works, and now she's paying the consequences for that. Because 244 copies in nearly 2 weeks. Oh man, that's rough. That is really, really rough. So, almost feel bad for her, but I can't feel bad for her because she's the failed daughter of a war criminal who was gifted everything on a silver platter, but still has a perpetual victim complex. Completely unbearable. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.